profound testimonial. Thank you. As you have heard, the stronger your support to the community, the stronger will be Asha Kiran's support to help the suffering. Now, Mrs. Swapna Kakani, who hails from our very own community in Huntsville, shall inspire us with a story of hope, determination, and resilience. I invite Mr. Rusty Allen, Director of College Counseling, Randolph School, to come on stage and introduce Ms. Kakani.
It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce Swapna Kakani this afternoon. Swapna graduated from Randolph School in 2008 while I was serving as head of upper school and college counselor. While Swapna was a student at Randolph, she participated actively with the Red Cross and Habitat for Humanity clubs. She contributed greatly to Science Olympiad. She served as president of the Honor Council, and at her graduation, she was awarded the Head of Schools Cup, one of the greatest honors for a Randolph student. At Randolph School, her achievements are extraordinary and legendary to this day. Subsequent leaders of Habitat for Humanity are today still trying to live up to her definition of service and leadership. As head of upper school, I had many conversations with Swapna in her role as president. At Randolph School, honor, integrity, and character play perhaps the strongest part in relationships between faculty and students and between students themselves. Swapna set very high standards for herself as a model of honor and was a most effective leader of the Honor Council. Swapna's accomplishments are by any measure impressive, but they barely scratch the surface of the story of Swapna that is remarkable. 23 years ago, Swapna was born with an intestinal birth defect that left her with a small intestine that would not function. Consequently, she has been on IV nutrition since birth. Although she has never really tasted what she has prepared, her friends and family tell that she is actually quite the good cook. After Randolph, Swapna entered University of Alabama in Birmingham. After her sophomore year, Swapna decided to have yet another surgery, hoping that she could at last get off IV nutrition and begin to eat food that you and I take for granted. She has endured multiple surgical complications, followed by more surgeries and yet more complications. In all, Swapna has endured almost 40 abdominal surgeries, yet through it all she remains hopeful and determined about soon obtaining her undergraduate degree in public health from UAB and for her future. Through it all, Swapna's bravery and courage, her will to persevere, her faith in herself and her fellow man, her absolute refusal to quit or make excuses, her love for her family and friends are a model for all of us and a true testament to her character. Please join me in welcoming Swapna Kakani.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Allen, for that beautiful introduction. That really did mean a lot. And thank you for the warm welcome. It is an honor to be here today. I'm excited to share my own story of hope with the family, community, and friends I have grown up with and have supported me tremendously along the way. But first, I want to thank Asha Kiran for inviting me to speak at such a gathering and allowing me to support them. And I want to give a heartfelt congratulations for having such a great event this year. And finally, I want to thank you for attending and supporting the organization. The funds raised today are going to phenomenal programs that help those in crisis. My story is not only about crisis I have been facing, but also how we can rise above the despair and strife such an event can cause. With that, I hope my message will resonate with each of you in your own respective lives. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, we begin fighting for our lives the minute we are born, but we don't know how many minutes we will be fighting for until we die. For many of us, life goes on passively, without much acknowledgement that each day alive and healthy is a miracle in of itself, a miracle of our mind and inner strength, sometimes just purely described as luck. So what do you do if you know the day you are born, you will be fighting for every minute of every day for a better life? You defy all odds. Unfortunately, the odds were against me the day I was born. After multiple spitting episodes, my parents were only told I had an intestinal obstruction and I needed immediate surgery. The surgery could be an easy fix or require extensive work. 2 days and 6 hours later, they would find out that the result was extensive. I had not developed the ileum, which is the entire last segment of the small intestine. And what remained also had its own complications. The prognosis was unknown, and we were to take each day one at a time. I was diagnosed with a rare chronic illness called short bowel syndrome, and in order to survive, I immediately became dependent on intravenous nutrition called TPN and a gastric feeding tube. From the very beginning, the end objective was to be able to sustain myself on regular food, not being dependent on this artificial nutrition. What my family and I soon learned was having this chronic illness was not the end of the world, but rather it was just the beginning. I made it my new normal and went on with life, appreciating each day alive and healthy. I became a fighter that day, 23 years ago, full of spunk. My family told me on the way to the hospital, as a 2-day-old baby, I had already pulled out my drainage tube. That spunk continued into my school years, when I found myself having to explain my 2 backpacks. One backpack contained my school books, while the other one contained nutritional liquid and a pump, which connected to a feeding tube on my abdomen. I had to wear the backpack all day, every day. In elementary school, my classmates would ask me, "What's in your backpack?" I immediately broke their curiosity by responding, "None of your business." They would walk away almost bug-eyed. "Okay, I got it, I won't ask." I never meant to be rude or cocky. Instead, I did not want people to know in fear of being treated differently. Now, as I reflect back on my life, I can see that was the beginning of my skilled sassiness. Today, I'm proud to show you what was inside my backpack. This is the extra nutritional liquid that was pumped into a feeding tube that was directly connected onto my abdomen. I needed this extra nutrition because I could not absorb everything I ate. It was connected to the feeding tube. Then the next one is TPN, which, as you can see, it was white or yellow. This is TPN, or IV nutrition that goes straight to the bloodstream through permanent IV, bypassing the GI tract. Although growing up, I hardly shared anything about my health, I learned not to hide behind my backpacks and make them a burden to my life, but rather a part of me. I had to overcome their hindrance to my normal routine in order to be successful in life. I did not want my illness to get in the way of my passions. Often, though, I took that to the extreme, defying the meaning of illness. I loved tennis since I was young, and so when I became old enough to play for Randolph, I was ecstatic. I didn't think twice about the stamina that was required, or how dehydrated I would get, or even what my parents would really think. So with my backpack on, I played varsity tennis for 4 years, once even missing school the next day after a tennis match because of severe dehydration, all so I could fight to the end in a tiebreaker. Sometimes, though, it was inevitable for my health not to stand out. There were instances where I would be out of school for a week at a time, and I would return with an IV in my hand or a permanent IV under my shirt, with fresh stitches and a sore chest. There were also occasions where my clothes would suddenly be saturated with bile. But this was never a reason to slow me down, because I was always one step ahead of my health. In elementary school, I would have described myself as a tomboy, always ready to engage in the sports and activities of my male peers. One day, in the 4th grade, I found myself walking fast to the nurse's office while I held my stomach. My feeding tube had been pulled out, and bile was leaking out fast. The tube had to be inserted into the stomach again. After calling my dad to the rescue, as we usually did, the nurse asked me firmly, "What were you doing? What happened?" As if it was just any other day, I casually told her, "I was just playing football with the guys." The nurse would soon find out that pulled feeding tubes were a common occurrence, because nothing was going to pull me down, literally. No matter how many tubes I had or what surgery I was recovering from, school was a priority. But succeeding was essential. Growing up, I often studied and took tests in the hospital. Once, as a rising junior in high school, before leaving to the hospital, I made my aunt promise to bring my packed bag of SAT books, despite the fact that I was getting admitted for a 12-hour surgery the next day. Despite these setbacks, I still persevered to achieve my own academic goals. Going to school with IVs and tubes was my normal. To be ahead of short bowel syndrome, my family and I became informed. We stayed up to date on the latest research, pioneering through new surgeries, treatments, medications, and diets. We would take the risk, exhaust all our options, and try again, never losing hope. But always an effort to completely be free from IVs and tubes, so I would not be defeated by the potentially fatal complications of this artificial nutrition, one of them being liver failure. The odds have been on my side, defying all medical knowledge, because I can knock on wood and tell you I do not have liver failure after living with IV nutrition for 23 years and undergoing a total of 51 surgeries. Through these trials and tribulations, I never lost hope. But my hope was definitely going to be challenged. On May 14th, 2010, after my sophomore year of college, I underwent one more surgery, so sure that this surgery, this hospitalization, would be my last. This one would let me be free. My plans were set. I had so much hope I would return to UAB in the fall after taking the summer off to recover, and by the spring, I would officially sustain myself on the regular food we all enjoy. And as one surgeon has said, I would hit the ground running. This is hope. But of course, it was not going to be that easy. The next 2 years, I had 14 surgeries and numerous hospitalizations at 4 different hospitals across the country, battling complication after complication. Those plans I had set, they were forgotten. These complications included bile from the fistula, which would drain continuously on my skin or into my bladder. The acid would tear up my skin, leaving me raw, both physically and mentally, inside and out, and exhausted with pain. At this point, it was a battle between myself and the will to live, a fight for a better life. After 7 straight weeks in the ICU, an abdomen full of holes, an injured bladder, and no end in sight, I was burned out. I told 2 family and friends, I give up. They said, okay. Wow, I didn't think I would get off that easy. I thought we'd at least argue about it. They followed with, for now, you can give up for now. I realized that it was okay to be devastated, angry, sad, and even jealous of everyone who was physically able and was so lucky enough to be on the other side of that hospital bed. But I could not get stuck in those thoughts. I had to focus on what I had control over, even if it was minimal, and move forward. How did I get the strength to endure the setbacks and keep on fighting? From an outpouring of support from these guys, my friends. Friends from school and college sent funny cards and inspirational quotes like, be positive, like a proton. Those same friends made sure to stop by, visit in person, and say hello whenever they were home from college, letting me escape into their lives for a couple of hours. I could not give up for them, but more importantly, I could not give up for my family. I knew they were hurting as much as I was. When a child battles a chronic illness, it impacts the entire family. This is not my battle. This is our battle. These 3 people have stayed by my side every day since the day I was born. But who knows better than you that the Kakani clan is not only we 4 people. Sometimes it's like we are a loud herd, but nonetheless, every single one of them gave me love and joy in my lowest moments. So much so that nurses had to kick them out because visiting hours were far from over, saying, I needed my beauty rest. The community also held me up. Individuals shared in confidence their own personal battles of vulnerability to inspire me and propel me forward, an act of integrity I will never forget. These stories still inspire me today. Groups and individuals prayed for me, representing all kinds of faiths and rituals, not only the traditional Hindu blessings that I grew up with. Lastly, if it was not for the excellent medical system I was so fortunate to be born into, and the outstanding team of doctors who continue to be innovative, providing exceptional care, and staying committed to my complicated case, I would not be standing here today. My next story is about food. Although I could eat, food for me was only about the taste and the craving. I would always only eat a petite amount, rarely finishing my meals, but savoring each and every bite. I was dependent on artificial nutrition for a reason. The volume that I could handle and the amount that I actually absorbed were both very small. It was rare for me to eat without fear of having to pay for it the next several hours. Despite these inadequacies, I never lost hope that one day I would eat 3 full meals just like everyone else and sustain myself on the food we all enjoy. However, that immediate goal changed. On September 24th, 2011, my 22nd birthday, I had decided to have just a casual dinner at our house with my parents and a few friends. My mom had already made my favorite curries and snacks: chicken curry, mushrooms, spinach dal, palau rice, and my all-time favorite, fried pakodas. All seemed well. My birthday dinner was going on without a hitch until I started eating. The complications I had developed the previous year had finally become the ultimate hindrance. Food I put in my mouth was spontaneously coming out of the 4 abdominal fistula holes on my abdomen. The acidic bile was tearing up my skin. It felt like I was on fire. The pain forced me to adapt and make changes. The surgeon said, "You have got to stop eating." Wow. How could I do such a thing that we all enjoy? September 24th, 2011, my 22nd birthday, was the last time I ate solid food. Now that meal is something I dream of. The imagined tastes and smells of all my favorite foods still fill my senses every day. So I transformed my hunger into a routine of cooking chef-inspired dishes, becoming a true foodie at heart. Not eating solid food became my new normal. It was not until I had become content with myself and faced the truth of what happened, what was happening, and what was yet to happen, that I could take the next step and move to the future. With support from my family, friends, and community, I made the decision to have the surgery which took out my small and large intestines, the same intestines that we fought for every day for the past 23 years. It was a bold decision, but it was a confident decision, one that I had to make on my own, and one I'm happy I made. The day after surgery was the first time since 2010 I could stand up without bile flowing out of me like a fountain and burning my skin. It is one of the happiest moments in my life. Now, as I look towards the future, I face yet another challenge: a possible intestinal transplant. I will face it with the hope, courage, and resilience I have led thus far. Whatever the future has in hold for me, it will become my new normal, continuing to be a fighter and defying all odds. I'm going to end with scars, because scars are the true evidence of what we have defied or challenged in our lives. I know I have had my fair share of scars, but we all have some type of scar: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual ones. Some may have more than others. Each one tells a story as they live with us forever as the truth. I'm here to tell you, be proud of those scars. Let them give you confidence and definition for the life ahead.